So Damian, a really decent start last week, 2 bonus points, not a win, but against a side that's potentially going to be challenging for the top positions this season. That's got to be a really promising start.
Yeah, it was a very positive outcome for us, all things considered. I think we struggled in that first 20 minutes. Obviously, we had to get the bus drive out of our legs a little bit. 7 hours is quite a trip for the boys to kind of be expected to come out all guns blazing. I think obviously there was a bit of natural tentativeness amongst the squad just because obviously first proper game, probably a slight sense of nerves in there a little bit, but once they found their feet in the first 20 minutes or whatever, I think we actually did really well, and I think we shaded large parts of the game. Our set piece was pretty dominant, and as you say, Cambridge are one of those sides who come the end of it will be there or thereabouts, so to actually push them as hard as we did, I think probably that would have been a bit better reflected on the scoreboard if we hadn't had that shaky start, but really pleasing stuff at the end of the day.
Coming into this weekend, obviously it's another away trip. This time it's a little bit shorter to Taunton. A couple of changes to the side, not necessarily to the starting 15, but is that a sign for you that you've enjoyed what you've seen from the players so far in terms of the fitness and in terms of the fight as well that we saw last week?
Yeah, definitely. We're in a bit more of a privileged position this year where we've got a few more players to choose from. There's more competition for spots than we've had since I've been here. But also we're very aware that we still need a settled side, and especially that core of that side needs to be settled. We need consistency and familiarity from these boys, and that's one of the things that last year with so many new faces kind of was one of our Achilles heels. So this year we're going to try and make sure we keep some continuity as much as we can. So guys who are playing well will keep the shirt. We've said that from day one. And we've had a lot of guys who've stuck their hands up, and have actually played really well in not just the pre-season games, but also in that kind of second 60 minutes of the game on the weekend against Cambridge.
Does it feel better this season in terms of the integration that you've had with the new arrivals and then also with the young players coming up?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've always been, one of the things I've always said is we've always been quite a welcoming squad. The guys are very good at bringing people in. They test them a little bit, obviously, as all change rooms do, but generally speaking, we're quite a happy camp. Even last season when things were, maybe a bit grimmer than they are now, we were still quite a happy camp. So it's one of those environments where people can come in and they can stake a claim. But as I've said to several of them, it's the case is that most of our guys from last year we kept, 99% of them we kept. So in terms of breaking into the squad, it's sometimes easier to break in to kind of find your way out of it than it is to get in, if that makes sense. So it's going to be tricky for some of them to break in because there's a lot of good players in a lot of good positions, but that's ultimately what you need when you want to have a decent league campaign. There's a lot of boys fighting with the same shirt.
So Taunton on Saturday, what are you expecting to see from the boys? Is it similar to last week, just a better start, or what are you aiming for?
Yeah, I mean the start is something that we kind of struggled with a little bit last year. My feelings were a little bit that we almost wait to see what the teams have got a little bit before we show them what we've got, which is something that if we can turn around will be a massive advantage to us, going forward. But all we're looking for really is just if we can just keep getting that a little bit better each week. Some of those details and things that we need to clear up from Cambridge. If we see that cleared up and put on the pitch, Ryan always says if we can play like we train, then things will be fine, and that's essentially what we're looking to see on the weekend. We're looking to see all the things that we put into place in training, come to fruition in the game. And to be honest, it's going to be a good game because it's a local rivalry. We had it tough down there at Christmas last year, so we obviously know what's expected and what we're up against. But I'm very confident, obviously, that if we stick to the task and we actually perform as I know we can do, then we should be in a good spot for this game.
And compared to the start of last season as well, but I mean the second half of the season I felt was kind of like summed up by the second half performance last week, in that it was battling, and that was the reason we were able to stay up and get towards the mid-table at the end of it. Is that the sort of thing you're confident now that the team's going to start producing in the early part of this season, and they're not going to have that shaky start? Yeah,
I'd like to think so. I mean, like I said, we are quite a tight squad, and I think actually that adversity last year when we were backs to the wall for large parts of it, playing with 17 players, etc. I think that did forge quite a good bond between a lot of the guys, and it did forge a bit of a spirit and a bit of a kind of collective intensity for games, etc. So I'm pretty confident that's in us all the time now. It's more a case of if we decide to commit to a game, I think there's very few teams in this league that would trouble us. It's just obviously making sure we have that commitment for 80 minutes, which is where that start comes in.
And I mean, going into these games now as a manager, as the coach of these players, I know it's very early in the season and we've only just had pre-season. I remember I asked you last week if you were confident, and straight away you said yes. Is that the feel around the whole camp now? Is that you go into every game now thinking we can get points here?
Yeah, I mean, I strongly think that should be the mentality of any club in this league. Really, obviously you've got to respect all the opposition we come up against, and we're not suggesting for a second that we're the top team in the league, etc. But I do know for a fact that when you look at how we train the players that we've got, on our day we can be a match for anyone, and it's just making sure we have more of those days where we're a match for anyone than less. And it's quite a confident feeling around the camp, because obviously we have worked hard in pre-season. The boys have really put in a big shift there, and I think that gives them confidence, because obviously some of the areas that we struggled in last year, so our fitness early on, that kind of thing has been to a large part turned into a bit of a strength now. So they should be confident, and it's just trying to transfer that confidence into the game scenarios, really, which is our kind of next learn, really.
And just with the squad this weekend, is there any injury concerns? Have there been any fitness concerns, or is everyone good to go?
I think Dan Collier's got just a bang on the shoulder. I'm fairly certain it's nothing structural, but obviously it's one of those ones where it's probably quite sore, so he'll be rested this week. This is the beauty of having a few more faces. Angus, for example, has stepped in, so it means that we don't need to wheel guys out or put props in at second row, etc. that we did last year. So if we've got any guys who are kind of touch and go, like Dan is, it's probably better just to rest him. So I think other than that, I think he's the only one who drops out for an injury reason. I think George Mills is on his way back as well, so that should provide more competition in that back five of the scrum as well, which would be great for us.
And from last week, I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. Is there any sort of things that you would like to not see from the team that you saw last week in terms of their patterns of play? And aside from the start, was there anything else other than that, or is it just generally a good game after the first minutes? Not
really. I mean, generally speaking, there's a couple of bits of detail that we've discussed on Tuesday, and we've tidied it up. We've run through some things to make sure that we have got the right ideas in our brains when we're running those kind of things. But generally speaking, the shape and the patterns we played were good. Our set piece was good. Our maul was excellent. It's just, as I say, trying to tie all those bits in together, and it sounds so easy to say it, but if we can actually tie all the bits together for an 80-minute performance, then we'll have no problems, and we can be very pleased with ourselves if we do that. It's obviously just that is our challenge, is making sure we do it.
Thank you, Damian.
No worries.
Thanks for that.